All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive in.
Well, today we're going deep into symbolism, specifically how it's used in, you guessed it, Super Bowl halftime shows.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. We've got some sources that go pretty deep, like into occult and Masonic interpretations of these performances.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're going to explore those interpretations, but of course, not saying any of this is the absolute truth, right?
Right, of course. Just exploring the ideas.
Exactly. So let's unpack all of this together, see what we find. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, so one of the things that really jumped out from these sources is this connection they draw between the Super Bowl and the Roman gladiator games.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, both of them, they're huge spectacles, right? Captivating audiences. But these sources suggest there might be a deeper purpose.
Oh, like what?
Well, some argue that these events, both the Super Bowl and the gladiator games, they serve as a way to control, maybe even pacify the public.
That's a pretty heavy thought, right? It makes you think about this year's Super Bowl, held at the Caesar Superdome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That visual, the dome itself, it kind of looks like the Colosseum, right? Definitely adds another layer to that whole comparison.
It does. So are we saying the Super Bowl is like a modern-day version of Breton circuses, keeping us entertained while...
Well, maybe bigger issues are at play. It's a thought-provoking idea, no doubt. But let's shift gears a bit. Focus on the halftime show itself. Remember that Apple portal? The one that kicked off the performance?
Yeah. That was visually stunning. But how does that fit into all this symbolism we're talking about?
Well, the apple itself, it's loaded with symbolism, especially in Western culture. Adam and Eve, forbidden fruit, all that.
Oh, right, the pursuit of knowledge and the consequences that come with it.
Exactly. So are we stepping into the realm of forbidden knowledge with that imagery? The occult, maybe. It's like they're inviting us to cross a threshold.
I see, yeah. Like we're entering a different world.
Exactly. Some interpretations see it as a symbolic entry point into that world, and then right after you had those symbols flashing in the field.
I'll admit, at first I thought they were like video game buttons or something.
A lot of people did, but those are actually alchemical symbols: the triangle, square, circle, the X.
Alchemy. Whoa, okay. So each of those symbols has a specific meaning.
They do. Alchemy, it's a whole tradition, philosophy, and proto-science that focus on transformation of matter and the human soul.
I see. And, I noticed there were a lot of triangles throughout the performance pointing in different directions. What's up with that?
Great observation. So in alchemy, the upright triangle that represents fire, masculinity, the inverted triangle, that's water, femininity.
Oh, interesting. Like that part with SDA later on, right? She was standing inside an inverted triangle with all those female dancers in blue around her.
You got it. That's exactly the kind of visual representation they're going for. It all ties back to this core concept in alchemy called the great work. Yeah, essentially it's about achieving a state of spiritual perfection through transformation. And a key part of that is the union of opposites.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects. So we have this alchemical framework, and then Uncle Sam appears. How does he fit into all of this?
Uncle Sam. Well, this is where those Masonic interpretations really come into play. See, the artist who created the modern image of Uncle Sam, he was a 33rd degree Freemason.
Whoa, the highest degree. So people see that as a deliberate choice, linking Uncle Sam to
Freemasonry, exactly. It gets pretty deep.
Okay, I'm not super familiar with Freemasonry, so can you give me a little background? How does it connect to all this symbolism we're seeing?
Sure. So Freemasonry, it's a fraternal organization, right? Lots of rituals and symbols. And some believe that those rituals, they're actually rooted in alchemy, like symbolic enactments of the alchemical process.
So transforming individuals
and society as a whole, yeah. So when you see Uncle Sam in this context, some people interpret it as him overseeing some kind of alchemical ritual right there on the Super Bowl stage.
Wow, so it's not just a performance, it's a
ritual, potentially, yeah. And the symbolism just keeps going. There's that part where the dancers form an American flag behind Kendrick Lamar and they strike this pose.
I remember that. It was pretty striking.
Right. Well, some believe that pose resembles the grand hailing sign of distress in Freemasonry.
Wait, a distress signal? Like they're trying to tell us something?
It's open to interpretation, right? The traditional meaning is a Mason asking for help from other Masons.
Okay.
But some people believe there's a deeper meaning, a more esoteric one, that's only revealed to Master Masons.
So a hidden message within a hand gesture. That's pretty wild.
Right. It's like those layers of meaning we were talking about. And then there's the dancer hanging from the light pole, very reminiscent of the Hanged Man card in the tarot.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now we're getting into tarot. I know the cards.
But not necessarily the deeper meanings, yeah.
Right.
So the Hanged Man, it's often about self-sacrifice, surrender, seeing things from a new perspective, like letting go of old ways of thinking to make way for
transformation, growth, yeah. I'm seeing a theme here from the Apple portal to the Hanging Man. But what about SZA? How does her performance fit in?
Her performance is particularly interesting through this lens. Dressed in red, standing in that inverted triangle, she's been interpreted as the Scarlet Woman.
The Scarlet Woman, now that's a new one.
Right. In occult traditions, she's a complex figure, often associated with feminine power, rebellion, rejecting traditional norms.
And the color red.
Passion, sexuality, the life force, all of that.
So are they saying SZA represents this rebellious feminine energy challenging the establishment? Especially in contrast with Uncle Sam, who could represent that very establishment.
Exactly. It's like they're juxtaposing these two figures, adding another layer of complexity. And then there's that visual similarity between SVA's setup and a Masonic apron. Just another connection to those Masonic rituals.
Wow, this is a lot to unpack. Uncle Sam, alchemy, the Scarlet Woman. It all seems to connect back to those rituals, this idea of transformation.
It's definitely a lot to process. And remember, this is just one interpretation of the symbolism, right? There are other ways to view the performance.
Right, of course. But this lens, it does offer a unique perspective, makes you think, right? Is there more to these halftime shows than meets the eye? Like they're speaking a secret language.
A symbolic language, for sure. And sometimes those messages, they run deeper than what we see on the surface.
Absolutely. Speaking of deeper messages, there's one more layer to all of this Super Bowl symbolism that we haven't even touched on yet. Our sources brought up Usher's performance from a previous Super Bowl, and apparently it plays into this whole transformation narrative.
Oh, really? That's interesting, Usher's performance.
Yeah, let's dive into that next.
Usher, yeah, his performance adds a whole other dimension, that's for sure. Especially when you consider his outfit, all white, really striking.
White. Okay, what's the significance of white and all this symbolism we're talking about?
Well, in ritualistic stuff, white can mean a lot of things, right? Purity, innocence, like a blank slate, even a sacrifice. So when you look at Usher, it makes you think, right, how does the white fit in?
Yeah, and he's wearing that Phoenix pin, too, on his jacket. Can't forget about that.
The Phoenix, yeah, that's a powerful symbol. Rebirth, transformation, rising from the ashes, renewal, the cyclical nature of life and death.
Oh, right. So white, maybe ritual, sacrifice, and the Phoenix pointing to rebirth, transformation. It all lines up with what we were talking about before, right?
It does, yeah. And there's that moment, when they show Usher on a clock face, adds another layer to the mix.
A clock. Okay. What's the occult significance of a clock?
Clocks, in a lot of occult traditions, they represent time, mortality, that whole cyclical nature of existence, The ticking clock, it's like a reminder that time is passing, the end of an era, maybe even a countdown to something big.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then they show him on the sun, too, which is also a pretty big symbol when we're talking about rebirth and new beginnings, right?
Absolutely. The sun, its life, vitality, resurrection. A lot of cultures, they see it as a divine force, right? Bringing light and warmth, good over evil, all that. The promise of a new day.
So it does seem like they're emphasizing rebirth and renewal quite a bit in both performances. Do you think it's intentional or maybe just a coincidence?
It's hard to say for sure, but when you see those same symbols popping up over and over in multiple Super Bowl halftime shows, it makes you wonder, right? Are they trying to subtly influence us? Or is it all in our heads?
It's like those optical illusions, right? Two different images, depending on how you look at it. Maybe there's no one right answer. But it is interesting that we're even having this conversation. It shows you the power of symbols, right?
Exactly. Okay, so we have Usher laying the groundwork with the white, the Phoenix, the clock. What about Alicia Keys? How does she fit in?
Oh, yeah, Alicia Keys. Well, remember that Scarlet Woman imagery we were talking about with SCA?
Oh, right.
Alicia Keys, she wore red during her Super Bowl performance, too. So maybe she's embodying a similar archetype.
Could be. That consistent use of red across different halftime shows, it's definitely suggestive, right? Like a deliberate symbolic choice. And red, it's passion, creation, sometimes even revolution.
So another layer to the whole symbolism thing. This is all really fascinating. But I'm sure some people listening might be thinking, come on, aren't you guys reading too much into this? It's just entertainment, right?
I get it, yeah. Some people might see it that way. And honestly, symbolism, it's open to interpretation, right? What resonates with one person might not with another. We're not trying to tell anyone what to believe.
Right, just offering a different perspective. But it does make you wonder why they choose those specific symbols, just aesthetics or something more.
That's the beauty of symbolism, right? It gets people talking, makes you question what you're seeing, look beyond the surface, even if there is no deeper meaning. Just thinking about it can be an interesting experience.
Okay, so we have all these symbols, transformation, rebirth, maybe even a new world order. But what does it mean for us, the viewers? Why should we care about this symbolic language, even if it's just one interpretation?
That's where things get really interesting. It makes you think about the role of symbolism in pop culture, and how it might be shaping our thoughts, our perceptions. Are these symbols just pretty pictures? Or are they a form of communication, maybe even social influence?
You're saying these performances might be trying to, like, subtly influence us. Subliminal messaging, almost?
Maybe. It's worth considering. Symbols, they have a powerful effect on us,
Yeah.
Subconscious stuff, emotions, ideas, perceptions, all that. Think about flags, for example. They evoke patriotism, right? Or how brands use logos to create a sense of identity.
Right, right. So in the context of the Super Bowl, what kind of message are they trying to send? What's the goal?
Well, if you look at the themes, transformation, rebirth, some people might interpret that as a call for societal change, like a shift towards a new way of thinking, a new world order, maybe, encouraging us to embrace change, let go of the old ways, prepare for a new era.
Okay, but who's orchestrating this change? The Freemasons? Illuminati? Are we going down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole here?
Whoa, whoa, hold on. We're not promoting any specific agenda here, okay? No conspiracy theories. We're just exploring different perspectives, encouraging people to think critically, do their own research.
Right, right. It's easy to get carried away with these theories, but at the end of the day, you got to decide what you believe, right? But regardless of all that, it's clear that the Super Bowl, it has a huge impact on our culture.
Absolutely. It's a massive cultural event, reflects our hopes, our fears, our aspirations, and the symbolism, whether it's intentional or not, it taps into all of that.
Like the Super Bowl is this giant mirror showing us who we are as a society, our love of spectacle, the need for escapism, maybe even our susceptibility to, subtle forms of persuasion. It's more than just a game. It's a phenomenon.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so fascinating to analyze. Entertainment, symbolism, a social experiment, it's all of that. It reflects who we are and who we might become.
Thinking about all this symbolism, it makes me wonder about the impact on viewers. Our sources mentioned how some fans reacted after the Super Bowl. Pretty intense stuff. Do you think there's a connection between the symbolism and that emotional intensity?
Yeah, it's almost like they were drawing a direct comparison in these sources. The Super Bowl and those Roman gladiator games. Not just the spectacle, but also how it gets people riled up.
Right. It's like both these events, they tap into something primal, don't they? That need for competition, the thrill of victory, maybe even a little bit of chaos thrown in. Oh, yeah. The sources even mentioned what happened in Philly after the Eagles won. People climbing poles, breaking into stores. It's like this wave of pure emotion just took over.
Sounds intense, like something out of ancient Rome, for sure. And it's not just about celebrating wins either, is it?
Right. They even talked about this woman, she was trying to put a hex on the Chiefs with a voodoo doll.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah. I mean, we can't say if it was real or not, but it shows you how seriously people take this stuff.
It does, yeah. The Super Bowl, it's more than just a game to some people, right? It's like this cultural touchstone, this shared experience that brings out all kinds of emotions.
You said it, euphoria, despair. Sometimes it feels like the lines between reality and ritual get blurred.
Exactly. So do you think there's a connection between all the symbolism we've been talking about and how intense people get about the game?
That's a good question. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah. People who believe in those occult interpretations, they might say that the symbols, the rituals, they're meant to amplify those emotions.
Oh.
Like it's all designed to make the spectacle even more potent, more influential.
Wow.
Tapping into our desires, our fears, maybe even manipulating how we react.
So it's not just entertainment. It's
A carefully crafted experience, maybe.
to influence us. That's kind of creepy, right?
It is a bit unsettling when you think about it, but even if we don't buy into all those more esoteric interpretations, it's obvious that the Super Bowl has a psychological impact on people.
It does, yeah.
Think about it. They use symbols, music, the whole performance. It's all about evoking emotions, creating a sense of unity.
Especially the halftime show, right?
Yeah, it's like symbolism on overdraft, tapping into those archetypes and myths, those things that resonate deep down.
So as viewers, we're not just watching, we're participating almost.
Exactly. Like we're part of this ritual, whether we realize it or not. And that's the thing about symbols and rituals, right?
What is it?
They can bypass our logic, speak directly to our emotions. They can influence us in ways we don't even understand.
It makes you wonder about the ethics of it all.
It does. It's a slippery slope. Entertainment versus manipulation, especially when you're dealing with symbols that can be so powerful. As viewers, we have to be aware of these things, develop a critical eye.
So it's not just about enjoying the show, it's also about understanding the impact it might have on us.
You got it. The Super Bowl, with all its grandeur, its symbolic language, it gives us a chance to really think about how entertainment, ritual, and social influence all work together.
So if we understand the language of symbols,
We can be more aware, make better choices that align with what we believe in.
That's a good point. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our deep dive into Super Bowl symbolism. We've gone down some pretty crazy rabbit holes today. It's definitely changed how I see things.
It has been a wild ride, that's for sure.
To our listeners, keep an open mind, do your own research, and decide what you think about all of this. What does it all mean to you? Are we overthinking it, or is there something more going on? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And, like always, question everything. Even the stuff that seems obvious, or just pure entertainment. There's always something more to discover.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep those minds open and questioning. 6TI.